Welcome to the CEO Project Podcast, where Jim Schlexer, author of the best-selling book, Great CEOs Are Lazy, and the founder of the CEO Project, provides ideas and tools to help CEOs of mid to large-sized companies grow and optimize their businesses. Now, let's get started with the show. Welcome, everybody, to the CEO Project Podcast. My name is Jim Schlexer. I am your host. Well, the CEOs that we talk about, there are two letters that either excites them or terrifies them. And those two letters are AI, right? Is it going to take all our jobs? Is it going to destroy my business? Is it going to, we're not certain. And, that's typical in a new technology where there's a lot of uncertainty about how am I going to use it? What are the use cases? Is there a use case that makes economic sense? The buzz is insane. Well, my guest today is going to help us think about this in one particular business use case. He's built a business. So Tyler Hochman is my guest. He's the founder of Four Enterprise. People spend a lot of time at work, and Tyler wants to keep them there. Four Enterprises use AI to predict employee turnover, identifying the reasons why workers might leave and giving company ideas for boosting loyalty. They've raised a bunch of money. Tyler's a serial entrepreneur. This is not his first rodeo, and hoping to make this one a big success as well. But I think he's got a really interesting use case for AI here. So he's going to help us understand it. So Tyler, welcome.
Thank you, Jim, for having me on.
Was I like anywhere close to what you actually do for a living?
That sounds very accurate. We've expanded a little bit beyond that, but that is remains definitely one of our core competencies. And I think if my own parents were describing it, they would certainly do a worse job.
Well, there you go. So what got you to this? I mean, that really the issue for AI is I've talked about it is the question is what is the real business use case that makes it make sense? It's a cool technology, but where do I use it? Where do I truly gain leverage? So you've sort of focused in on this one. Why? What got you here?
Yeah, no, it's we started from the perspective of how do you deliver ROI to our clients in a way that they can actually realize it
Yeah.
in a reasonable time frame.
Hmm.
And so we aim to deliver the full cost basis of implementing Forest technology within 6 months.
Wow.
Sometimes it goes beyond that and it goes to 12 months to 18 months, but our goal is 6 months. And this use case, amongst others, has become very pivotal to being able to deliver that.
Got it. So why can't I get there? I mean, I think about Gallup, Q20 and a variety of other methodologies, people and 360 reviews and employee surveys. And I mean, people are really trying to assess where their people are at through a variety of tools. Why is this better than what people have been doing for the last, whatever, 20 years, let's say?
Yeah, I think it's in the way you described it. There are a lot of different resources out there to try and retain employees and identify the primary reasons employees are leaving and turning over. And because there are so many resources, it becomes a big data problem.
Yeah.
And so we actually leverage a lot of the psychological tests, a lot of the 360 reviews in order to construct the employee profile, and then through that are able to use AI and use different algorithmic techniques to then forecast when employees are going to leave off the basis of why we think they're going to leave.
Got it. And I guess over time, as people do leave, it gets smarter because, okay, there's a pattern there that we didn't see before, right?
Leave or stay, honestly. It's
Well,
at the same time, what we do is we've created a very cool feedback loop. And so once a business decides to implement some of the recommendations that we've offered, we can actually see the effectiveness of those recommendations and then create a feedback loop targeting that employee's profile from a more general standpoint.
right. Okay, interesting. So in the back end, what is the AI tool that you're using, or did you build your own? What kind of methodology do you have behind the scenes?
Yeah, so and what's cool about it is this was our core product around a couple of years ago. We still maintain this product, but we've moved beyond that.
Okay.
In addition to that, and the reason is because of how we built the product. And so what we do is we have a pipeline that generates ultimately our output, which is the recommendations and the forecasting. And that pipeline starts first was structuring and formatting. And so that actually is a very interesting and I think very useful application of AI is because in big data, there was a problem about, you have all these different data sources. They're formatted different ways. They're not time-stamped the same. They have different structures. And so we use AI to parse that and actually create a unified data lake that we can then query over. And then we can, prompt engineer and we can ask it various things that lead to our recommendations. And so what we created was a holistic pipeline that intakes, and every company is different. And so that was the initial challenge, right? Is how do you create a pipeline that can intake data from, some people have Salesforce, some people don't have Salesforce, right? Some people use Gallup, some people don't use Gallup. And so you need to have a very dynamic and malleable ingestion pipeline, which we've
Yep.
created that can structure and format the data, then apply algorithmic techniques to it, and then ultimately create our recommendation and forecasting outputs, which then go back into our feedback loop.
Got it. So I get, digestion and normalization of the data and how critical that is. That people forget how complicated that actually is, given, as you said, the structure and so forth. But now, once you get the data lake, what is the technology that's being used to analyze it? Is it heuristic? What is the methodology you have? What's the technology you have on top of that?
Yeah, so it's a variety of different, the very first one is we apply something that's similar to like an LLM neural net to,
Yeah, sure.
not to overcomplicate it, but it essentially diagnoses
We're
based.
all geeks here, man. You can get geeky. It's all good.
Okay, excellent. And so it
How many
creates this
nodes are
really,
in that neural network? That's my question. No, no.
okay. It creates almost what looks like a brain, right? And so
Yeah.
at the center you have all these different lines that branch out from this node, and each line represents like an input factor for a personality trait or a KPI or something like that. And then ultimately it forms this stacked on top of a forest algorithm. It forms these different clusters and nodes that can then be used to cluster people together against different recommendation types. And from that, based on the distance between the two nodes, we then find the optimal recommendation types. Then we later on top of that pricing and time. And so two other filters that are very important, is what are the recommendations that cost a lot of money? And so, naturally we start at the easiest ones from cost and work our way down. And some employers have the appetite to go for a more expensive solution out of the gate, and they should do so. Some want a very simple solution, which ironically, and this is just a helpful tidbit, recognition is the number one way, regardless of whatever you use, to retain an employee. I think where we differentiate is that we're actually what big companies struggle with is when you have so many employees, how do you know which ones really need recognition at the time they need it? And so our forecasting algorithm takes care of that. And so it does a really cool job of determining when an employee is going to leave based on all those input factors I was describing before between KPIs and
Yep.
census information, personality information, and then it does the recommendations. But ultimately, every recommendation starts with, why don't you sit down and recognize the employee for
Yeah.
doing a good job, doing a new project, that kind
Yeah.
of.
Interesting. Okay, so I get it. So you're going to take that data, you're going to use that to find the differences in the groups, and then based on performance on retention, there are different things we might do. You probably have groups that go, there's zero risk this person's going to leave based on all the data we have. Doesn't mean
Oh,
you shouldn't praise them,
absolutely.
but they're not going anywhere, right? Down
Yeah.
to they're about to walk out the door. You might, if you don't want that to happen, time to do something, right?
Yeah.
Um, how do people react when they get a prompt that goes, "Hey manager, you haven't praised Bob in 3 months. It's time for you to," you walk in and go, "Hi Bob, I haven't praised you in a while. It's time for me to tell you you're doing a good." Is it feel mechanical? How do you get it to feel natural, because you're driving it very technically, right?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And so we layer on top of that, interesting LLM dialogue
Oh
that
wow.
we've
So you give
developed.
suggestions here.
Yeah, exactly. And so it actually can even suggest the conversation to have based off the reason we think the employee is going to leave. So if you think, one of the, primary causes of turnover is burnout, right? And so if you think the employee's been doing such a good job that almost they're doing too good a job, and as a result of that, they're like, then the dialogue and how you approach that starts very heavily from you're doing amazing. We love the work you're doing versus, if you have someone who has a low utilization because their skill set might not match match the job that they're in, that dialogue starts very differently, right? It starts with, are you feeling uncomfortable? Are you feeling out of place based off, your training or so on and so forth? Not from a accusatory standpoint, but more from just a understanding standpoint, so we can realign the job and the incentives.
I think you're still dependent on the sort of intuitive interpersonal skills of the manager, right? This helps, but they're good managers have a sense for their people. They have a sense where their heads are at, how they're feeling, how they're. So I think this supports it, but you still need managers to do this. For those managers that are expecting this to eliminate all your jobs, right? I think there's still a place for a human in this conversation, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's at this point, I think we function as a very good co-pilot.
Yeah,
You
there you go.
still
I
need
like
a
that.
yeah, a person to execute this. Absolutely. And even beyond that, I think ultimately it's a tool in your toolbox, right? It's you have a lot of people that you are, in charge of, and as a result of that, you may not and a lot of data that goes into determining how their job is doing it. And it's just impossible for a human to synthesize all that data and then
Yeah,
take action based on that synthesis. And so we are just a tool to help you go and do that.
got it. Yeah, Copilot. That'd be a great name for your product. Oh, wait, shoot, it's taken.
It's taken a
Um,
bunch of times.
yeah, right. Recognition clearly way up the list on things you identify. What are the other top two or three that you see as, things a company we're not doing enough of XYZ and that would affect your turnover in a significant way? What are the top couple that you see all the time?
Yeah, I mean the classic one, right, is like, and we call it salary optimization.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I would say that, and it's something that we, can make a recommendation, but still requires the interpersonal skills. And obviously it's on the top of most people's minds, but tends to be very expensive. So if you're looking at kind of the list of how we would present them, the lowest cost solution is recognition. Generally, the highest cost solution is, a salary optimization.
right.
In the middle, you have something that we focus on, which is like schedule adherence.
Hmm,
And so that's actually designing a schedule that I use optimization again, but that optimizes for a person's preferences, personality, a bunch of different input factors.
got it. That's right. So meaning like flex schedule or Fridays off or I don't care when you show up or when you leave, just get the job done, depending on the individual, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And or
Okay.
even like, and the other things we take into account is like distance from home, right? So if you have to commute a very long distance, you may have very specific preferences about like avoiding traffic and things like that, that actually really do en masse go a long distance to retain an employee.
I remember I was doing for a while. I was doing sales in Silicon Valley, giant traffic snarl like LA, right? And I'd go, "Hey, when do you want to meet?" And they go, "How's 7 a.m. sound to you?" I'm like, because they're rolling into work at 5:30. By 7:30, they're ready to do meetings. So, but they're gone at 2 to try to beat it on the other
Exactly. Trying to
side.
avoid the traffic.
Yeah, just all they're trying to do. Um, so how complicated is the integration? Oh, wow, sorry, let me go another place. So you're getting a lot of really, inside the tent data about, compensation and performance and talent and so forth. Like, how do you protect uh, an individual company's data? Because this is why we don't throw stuff into broad-based public LLMs all the time because we don't want them to understand either what we're looking for or our data that we're. So how do you protect your client's data? Because I know a lot of CEOs worry about, I want to use the tool, but I don't want everybody to know everything I know. So how do you help with that problem?
It's another really good question, and actually something that we have
I'm
we've
trying,
branched.
Tyler. I'm trying
You're
to ask
you're
good
knocking
ones.
them out of the park. But something that we've actually branched off to its own line of business in and of itself, which is the privatization of
Hmm,
LLMs.
yep.
And to that exact point, you don't want, public your data going into public LLMs. And so we have a whole line of business where we'll set up an infrastructure, normally a cloud-based infrastructure, but often we can actually do on-prem as well.
Blah, blah.
Most people don't. Ironically, you would be surprised because we work with a lot of like financial institutions and healthcare
Yeah,
institutions, and they're like, this data will never leave my property, and I want it to
yeah.
be here, and we can deploy that for them. But yes,
And the answer is, I live near DC and they have places where that truly is the case. The data cannot leave. The only way to make that happen is it cannot be connected to anything, completely
yes.
air gapped from the universe. That's the only way to be sure of that.
Well,
So,
I'll even and tangential, but very quickly to walk you through like an on-prem solution for us would look like, not only is it on-prem, you can only access the environment off the, Ethernet cables connected to the terminals that are, and we have clients with this appetite that are specifically connected to that terminal. And then we do yearly maintenance where we'll come and, if the underlying LLM, because, they're downloadable open source LLMs, has now updated, we will one day take the server down, update it, and then put it back up. And so it's using the most current available downloadable LLM.
Hmm.
But
Wow.
yes, there's surprising appetite for that.
I I'm a little. I mean, I get it, but it's pretty heavy paranoia. But it's all good. I mean, if you accommodate it, then fine. So what kind of results do you see people having when they begin to use AI to analyze turnover opportunities, employee satisfaction, and and engaging there? What kind of impact does this have on the problem of turnover?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a couple variables. The first one is obviously dependent on the number of jobs and the type of job that they're using to analyze. The impact of turnover is anywhere between, we estimate, 60 and 400% of someone's annual salary, which is shocking.
Wow,
That's how,
yeah.
yeah. I'm maybe not that shocking to you. You didn't look very shocked.
I think 400 is aggressive, but yeah, 150, 100, you take a senior level VP and easily 100%, easily. So yeah,
Yeah. And so as a result of that, we think that we can reduce, we've shown, and again, it's hard because you're proving a negative, right? If
yeah.
they don't leave, it's hard to determine if they've actually left, if they would have actually left. But at the same time, we believe we're somewhere in between the 22 to 35% reduction in turnover on,
Wow.
certain positions.
Mhm. Very cool. Well, I mean, you could analyze that, right? Before you guys showed up, I was at 15%. Now I'm at 10. What's that worth to you, right? I mean,
Yeah, and in a very transparent way, the compounding variable tends to be like the cyclical economy.
yeah,
And so you have to then normalize against that. But yes, I think that's how we've kind of generated those metrics.
fascinating. That's good. And okay, I got the data question and I got that. Who buys something like this? I mean, who makes a decision about, a talent management system? Is it an HR leader? Is it the CEO that jumps in on it? Who comes and says, we need to get this?
It tends to be based on the degree of problem in turnover that company is facing.
Got it.
If it is a super large problem, which a lot of our clients started that way at least, that will be the CEO. I mean, they have a
Sure.
personal vested interest. If it's a very large company that has, and there is healthy turnover, right? Like turnover in the low single digits is very healthy and actually
Yeah.
necessary for a company. But if it's, anywhere between low single digits to low double digits, that tends to be an HR leader or a COO type.
Starting with a two, a three, a four, then and I know I was on a board of a company where it was a board level conversation, the turnover rate. I mean, it was a big deal, for us. And it was a low skill, low comp job, so it tended to turn more rapidly. And we weren't willing to do the expensive answer, which is just pay a bunch more money. And that really probably was the answer, and it just didn't want to do it because it would have been a problem. So
And it's also why I call it like optimization, right? Because, and we can help businesses do it, but I think it's also well done in the, the CFO's department generally, which is it's an optimization problem. How much is the true cost of turnover, which a lot of businesses don't even know.
right.
What is this actually costing me? But then once you learn, how much free cash flow do we have to support, a salary raise and X number of employees and so on and so forth. So it is an interesting optimization
Hmm.
problem.
It almost feels like your opportunity here would be have a diagnostic offering that analyzes your business and your turnover and says turnover is costing you, $75 million a year. Just it's and the comment is like, if I can find the cancer, but I don't know how to cure it, that's not very interesting. If I know how to cure the cancer, but I don't know how to find it, that's not very interesting either. You need both therapeutic and diagnostic, and you've got a great therapeutic offer. I just wonder about particularly on the cost side, the diagnostic version. How people just roll their own on this? They figure it out on their own, or can you help them with that?
That is actually our lead generation strategy.
Ah, there you go.
You hit it right on the
Are
head.
you looking for a marketing manager? Because I think I'm your guy.
Hired.
So really,
Um,
you offer a free like turnover cost analysis, something like that?
no, not only free, we actually like identify potential companies that based off publicly available information we see have a large turnover rate, and then we'll go and actually calculate the cost of that turnover rate, and that's our intro email.
Yeah. I was actually going to go there next. If you could find public data on turnover, like there's your target client list, right? You know, Feeling the pain? Talk to us, right? That's great. So you're funded by venture capital, right?
Yeah, yeah, venture capital and angel investors. But
Name.
since we received funding, about our first round of funding was around 4 years ago. We took in a very small round a couple years ago, but then since then we are cash flow positive with no intention of taking any more funding.
Wow. And your board isn't saying if you're cash flow positive, you're not growing fast enough?
They that is definitely a healthy conversation that we have. So I will say it's not being said, but we think we're growing pretty fast.
That's funny. Because I mean, I've been in a couple industries where they go, "Oh, you made money? Why did you do that?" Right? So yeah. Now just this is for more of a CEO conversation, but in taking the money, what happened to your governance structure? Did you end up with a board and board members that you didn't have, like people that put the money behind you said, "Hey, we want inside the tent." How'd that work, and how is your ability to work with that group?
Yeah, no, our governance structure works. It was exactly that. In
Oh,
taking the
okay,
money, we gave our investors board seats. And subsequently, we meet with them periodically. We update them on big company moves. We've actually been branching into a ton of different, like I was talking about with the privatization of LLMs. We've taken this core competency and now branched in other respects. And so they offer a lot of guidance and opinions on that, and even help us determine is this the right move to make, with that with that free cash flow.
yeah, right. I mean, you want to spend it smart for sure. Um, and does that mean at some point you're going to have an exit to get your VCs out because they're not going to stay in forever, right?
It's interesting. We actually are getting pretty close to being able to make distributions.
Oh,
So it's a debate we are currently going through. What's the right path to take? Typically, obviously, the path is grow, grow, grow. Burn, burn, burn. It's not off the table for us, but we have a very solid income base with good growth metrics, and so distributions are definitely on the table.
got it. And it's a subscription model, so it's a SaaS business, right?
Primarily, our goal is to be about a 60/40, 70/30 SaaS to service business. We're probably somewhere in there, but yes, it's actually, and this is why we ended up expanding our offerings, is it's heavy implementation in the beginning, and a
Mhm.
lot of our clients really weren't even able to get close to the implementation on their own. And so it became so, and ultimately by putting in this pipeline, we actually then enabled a whole host of other different AI products that you could build on top of this pipeline. And so that's actually how we evolve the business, I should say, is that the pipeline became more universally applicable.
Yeah, got it. I think a lot of companies that are in your position try to build a network of implementers, not your people, right? And mostly so you can say very pure play SaaS for valuation reasons. And we don't do that icky, service people hours business because that's not as attractive from a financial point of view. So that may be an evolution at some point for you to think about, should we be doing this or should somebody else be doing this for us? And you might need to be a little bigger before that conversation happens.
I
Or are you
mean,
already?
Jim, you want to join my board? You sound like each of those members.
Um, that's funny. That's good. Well, it's kind of an obvious move for other people have been here before, right? So awesome. Well, this is fascinating, and I think it's a tremendous use case for AI. And I think you really put it light on, the ingest and the normalization of data, which then allows you to do things, and that becomes actually an asset of the company. So you go, well, what's the big deal of having the data all normalized? Like, it's actually a really big deal because that leverages the whole next set of things we're going to do with that data. And you can't do it unless you do that first. So that was really insightful and interesting. If people want to work with your company, Tyler, actually, before that, what do you do for fun?
I play pickleball. I play a lot of pickleball.
You and 200 other million other people.
I play pickleball. Although I will say I have a 9-month-old son.
Oh, wow.
And so
Congrats.
for the last 9 months, I've not played that much pickleball, but I hope to get back.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Well, stay safe. I hear more pickleball injuries than like how can you get injured playing pickleball? But it happens. So yeah. So stay safe. If people wanted to work with your company and engage, because it seems like they've got a turnover issue and they're scaled and they're like, I don't know how to get after it. How would they get a hold of you to have a conversation to see if there's a fit?
Yeah, the easiest way is just going to our website. It's www.forenterprise.com.
So
And
for like a
there's
four or FOUR or FOR?
FORE Enterprise.
Got it. Okay.
And yeah, there's a whole submission form you can fill out. We'll be in contact within a day. And yeah, it's just, or, the other way is, we're pretty active on, LinkedIn and a variety of different forums. So if you enter into our comments or anything, our LinkedIn page is very active. And so that's another easy way to contact us.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for this. Like I said, this question of AI and application and finding a real business case that pays back is on everybody's mind. So you really hit the bullseye on it. So thank you very much.
No, thank you for having me. And honestly, I really appreciated that, you're doubling down of that ingestion engine because not to make it super, not fun or to talk about, but it really is like kind of the coolest part of this, right? Is like the synthesization of large data and a normalized structure that you can build really any AI product on top of,
Sure.
is awesome.
Yeah, and no doubt. And it probably over time is not just people data. It could be all kinds of other data that goes in there that's relevant to solving problems. So, and I think people just minimize it. And that's why I thought your highlight was important. And the problem is it's just boring as heck. It's like
That's exactly right.
like completely no fun, and yet it's really important, right? It's one of those. So awesome. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to seeing the funny papers.
Yeah, thank you
All
very much,
right.
Jim.
And for those of you that joined us to listen today, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time on the CEO Project Podcast. Thanks for listening to the CEO Project Podcast. We'll see you next time. Be sure to subscribe to get all the future episodes and check out our website, www.theceoproject.com.